Well, good afternoon or good evening. Today I want to focus in on video and video in math instruction for blended or personalized learning. Video has been around for a long time. Some of us remember those old film strips when, as a student, we couldn't wait to, oh, can I put the film strip into the film projector? Or if we were really lucky, we would watch the video and then get a chance to watch it backwards. Yes, I'm really dating myself. But video has been around for a while. But for math instruction and video, I would say it really was revolutionized with the Khan Academy. And the Khan Academy offers a lot of supports, as well as Math Playground and a number of other, BrainPOP and some other things we'll talk about today. But video in and of itself is not the equalizer. Closed captioning doesn't necessarily mean that now the video is accessible to all. Just like video itself doesn't mean that, oh, all of a sudden the complexity of learning, the challenges we have with learning math goes away because we get to watch it and hear it. If that was the case, of course, they would connect with what we're sharing with them face to face. So today what I want to talk a little bit about was ways to consider video when it comes to math instruction, tools to consider and elements to consider. Actually, we'll even approach ways to create some of our own video, although that won't be the primary focus of today. But I do want to get us into thinking about video. And to begin with, I want to think about what we know works with video. And we've learned a lot, especially with special needs. We've actually done a fair amount of research with the impact that video will have on certain type of developmental needs for individuals with disabilities. And with that, there's a number of different research elements, and I'm not going to go into all of them, although I will mention John Hattie. There's 2 books there. He's done a fair amount of work of basically taking out what we know works and putting them into several publications and walking us through, okay, these are impactful interventions. Now, IES, Institute of Educational Sciences, What Works Clearinghouse, is seen as the Cadillac, although it does limit us in terms of what some of the evidence-based elements are, but also Teaching What Works. I want to go to Teaching What Works, actually. Teaching What Works is a site that I think everyone should be familiar with. And the reason I say everyone should be familiar with, at least educators should be familiar with, is what they've done is they've basically taken high leverage practices, or they've identified 19 high leverage practices. And each of these practices, they say, is really important for an educator to understand and be able to actually intervene with, because they'll go a long way of supporting the needs of individuals with disabilities. And so as you can see here, they're very general, but of course if you went to this website you can get more specifics on what they are, the research behind them. But in doing so, there's elements here that I think video offers a very nice job. For example, number 2, explaining and modeling content, the practices and strategies. Video can do a very nice job in respect to that. Setting up and implementing elements. There's other elements here in terms of what teachers can do, but there's elements here that I think, again, checking student understanding through a conclusion of a lesson could be some activities we do that start with the video and elements that follow. But anyways, I wanted to make you aware of it, but more importantly, in terms of aware of this site, is aware of the fact that there's evidence that we know that works with video and to build upon that. And so that's kind of what I want to mention for just a moment. And some of the elements I want to reinforce here start off with basically these 4 elements, these 4 points. And these 4 points would be the fact that, 1, anchored instruction. Video is very much an anchored instruction intervention. We know that if we can connect the individual to something they understand, connect the individual to a situation they can process or contextualize, we can build upon that. So for example, I know it's a non-math example, but I give it to you, and that is, we're going to learn about llamas. Well, if we've been to a zoo, we know what a llama is, we know what a llama smells like, we know we need to stay away from llamas because they tend to like to spit like camels and other things. Well, gosh, my contextualization of a llama will work wonders for me. It's foundational to what you're going to teach me now or extend with me about llamas. But if I have no clue what a llama is, never been to a zoo, don't know those other factors, my ability to make the connection, to have that anchor, is going to be challenged. Video allows me to provide some of that anchor. And I'm going to give you some examples in just a moment. But we also know video, if done well, facilitates thinking and problem solving. There's been a lot of work done with visual cues and connections to memory processing and recall of new knowledge, stuff we talked about in an earlier lesson that's a challenge for individuals with disabilities. In addition, we know that actually can help transfer skills that have actually been contextualized within the actual video, can be transferable if done well. We also know that video can help communicate and demonstrate procedures and assist in mastery learning. We know from that perspective, it allows for individuals to be very active in the process, and we'll talk about that here in just a moment about how to reinforce that activity. Finally, we know that it does increase student motivation if done and used well. It enhances the learning experience. It actually has had an overall impact on student outcomes and higher marks. And it's allowed an individual to get a little bit deeper into an area of expertise or competency. Now, we also know while an individual is watching a video, the data reflects that we should make certain the student is working or engaged. Maybe a series of questions that we're asking the individual to connect with. It may be that they're looking for certain elements that then they need to reflect on with us. And of course, that's the second thing, allowing students to reflect on what they watch. So it's not just simply a passive, it needs to be an active interaction. And the other nice thing we know about video is the fact that they can watch on their own. There's a repeated element. We can target watch in terms of maybe a 5-minute, but we want you to target in for this minute, whatever it may be. So we know that's a good practice, and it's aligned with what we know is effective research. But we also know our personal context with video. And this is one of my personal contexts, and I imagine it's one of yours as well. And that is, well, here, I'll let you listen to it.
Woo, you sure gotta climb a lot of steps to get to this Capitol building here in Washington. Well, I wonder who that sad little scrap of paper is.
I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Well, it's a long, long journey to the capital city. It's a long, long wait while I'm sitting in committee. But I know I'll be a law someday. At least I hope and pray that I will. But today I am still just a bill.
All right, now many of us can tell us the rest of the story, how the bill becomes a law, and there's a veto, and the Senate, and the House, and of course we can sing. Just like if I said conjunction, junction, you'd be able to finish off, what's your function? But it's that power of the video, it's that power that making that connection and what it aligns with. And so here's another video to me. It's nothing to do with Schoolhouse Rock, but to me it's an example of if we select the right videos, and we connect with the right videos and we set the learner up with the right videos, it's amazing what they'll be able to take from the video, make the connection to, and even make some conclusions from. So for example, here's a woman driving, well, here's a woman in a car.
I'm scared. Oh, there's cars coming. Oh, there's cars. Ah! Bill, just put me back for me control it. Oh, dear Jesus. I could never. Oh, where's it going? God damn, Bill. Oh, my God. Oh, this is so scary. Oh, Jesus, this is my first day out, and I'm about to die.
Oh, come on, relax.
Oh, my God, Bill. I couldn't do it. Oh, is the car coming? Just, oh, my God, they're going to hit us. Oh, it's...
Okay, hit the brakes, hit the brakes.
Now, from this video, I can certainly know that she's, first of all, on a busy street. It's a little more, I think, than a city street in terms of the cars passing. They seem to be going fairly fast. We know she's in a driverless car. She would know she's quite nervous about that. We know when it's the first time. There's a lot of things we can connect from that. And then, of course, we know what she's experiencing. We probably ourselves are getting a little anxious about, oh my gosh, what she's driving. And of course, there's some humor behind it. Now, some of us may say, well, gosh, if I was in front of a driver's car, this is what I would be connecting with, and you can envision these elements. And again, that's the use of video. You can set the stage, but also allow the individual to kind of make some connections based on what they already know and also what they want to envision. So here's one I'm going to fast forward a little bit to, I guess, what I would envision a number of us would think of when we think of a driverless car and what we would do.
This, passing an 18-wheeler in icy conditions while you're playing patty cake. Or how about these guys? As their Tesla cruises along, they're playing games like Jenga. Too exhausted to drive? How about a little shut-eye? And check out this road trip, playing cards, arm wrestling, reading books. We found several videos on social media showing...
All right, you got the gist of it. But the idea here for me is the fact that it's making a connection, and I can make a connection between what I'm seeing and make a visual with it, and I could go on and on and on. But here's one last one that's not necessarily related to math. I'll get into the math ones here in just a moment. But again, it's the use of video, to me, to introduce this idea of analysis, the idea of what numbers and the right types of formulas could actually derive and create in terms of, for the purpose of analytics and things of that nature. And lots of different ways I could set this up, but, well, here, let me have you listen to it. Now, we're only going to do part of it because of time.
Pizza Palace Guaranteed hot in 30 minutes or it's free. This is Mary. May I take your order?
Hi, Mary. Yes, I'd like to order.
Is this Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you for calling again, sir. I show your national identification number is 610-204-999-8-45-54610. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. I see you live at 736 Montrose Court, but you're calling from your cell phone. Are you at home?
I'm just leaving work, but I'm...
Oh, we can deliver to Bob's Auto Supply. That's at 175 Lincoln Avenue, yes?
No, I'm on my way home. How do you know all this stuff?
We just got wired into the system, sir.
Oh, well, I'd like to order a couple of your double meat special pizzas.
Sure thing. There'll be a new $20 charge for those, sir.
What do you mean?
Sir, the system shows me that your medical records indicate that you have high blood pressure and extremely high cholesterol. Luckily, we have a new agreement with your national health care provider that allows us to sell you double meat pies as long as you agree to waive all future claims of liability.
What?
Do you agree, sir? You can sign the form when we deliver, but there is a charge for processing. The total is $67 even.
$67?
Well, that includes the delivery surcharge of $15 to cover the added risk to our driver of traveling through an orange zone.
I live in an orange zone?
Now you do. Looks like there was another robbery on Montrose yesterday. You could save $48 if you ordered our special Sprout Submarine combo and picked...
All right, so you're getting the idea, and it'll go on and on and on. But now, how would this relate? Well, first of all, to me, it could relate in respect to the idea of data and a large amount of data and how that data could be called to provide certain types of information, which could then lead into, well, gosh, how would they arrange that information? How would they get some of that data? And what formulas would you need to use? So it's kind of setting the stage. It may not be the best example for some of you, but for me, it's that setting the stage element that then we could do further connections. Now, BrainPOP does a very good job of connecting many of the elements we just mentioned. Now, BrainPOP is an app that's available for free. Excuse me, it's a paid app, and it's also a site that's paid. Now, I'm going to share with you a video that kind of introduces elements, and here we go. We'll just move it over here for you to see, and we'll kind of pause it for just a second. So this is Tim and Moby. Moby's the robot, and Tim is the young man. They always introduce a scenario. They kind of set the stage, and for me, they're anchoring the challenge, the issue, the situation, and then they're offering some sort of solution. And in this instance, it's dealing with inequalities. So let me back it up just a bit. You'll see it just got started, and I'll be quiet.
Are you sure you know what you're doing? How are we supposed to get back down? And how do we go higher? I hope we can cut enough weight to get over that. Dear Tim and Moby, how do you solve an inequality? From Matt. Solving an inequality is a lot like solving a regular equation. Just about all the same rules apply. The difference is that an inequality shows the relationship between quantities that are not equal. Inequalities use symbols like greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, and less than or equal to. Matter of fact, we've got ourselves a little inequality staring us in the face right now. We're cruising along at, right, 1,190 meters above sea level. And that mountain up ahead is 1,315 meters high.
So it's about to get us into an equation, and you'll see here, we'll just fast forward just a bit. There's our equation.
Isolate the variable.
And then it continues in that process. So within about 3 minutes, I can very quickly get a stage set for what the challenge is. I can very quickly get an understanding of how that turns into a formula of sorts, and very quickly be connected to, okay, this was the problem, this is a potential solution, this is the issue, and now hopefully we all are connected. We all have that same foundation that we could build upon. So there's several different places that do video in terms of mathematics. This is another one in terms of Patrick and math. And here, I'll give you an example. And this one is quite easy, where the last one, oh my gosh, Sean, I mean, I can't create cartoons, so I'm going to have to go out and find them and all that. But this is a site where there's a number of different ways that math has been introduced. But by the way, if you look at it and watch it, these are things we can actually do ourselves. And I will get to that here by the end. But let me go ahead and fast forward just a little and get us started into what he's doing for a math problem.
Whenever we're dividing, usually when we do long division, we'll make the little bar and then put the number out front. Okay, remember the thing underneath, that's called the dividend, and the thing out front is called the divisor. So we have a divisor of 6 and a dividend of 24,158. number of times? And the answer is no, because it's down the next number.
So you can see he's kind of walking through the problem. Now, this might be something we use for flip purposes, and that we introduce the element to the individual, and then we have them do some IXL or some Florida Virtual Math or some other fast math in terms of some practice. But we've introduced it here very explicitly, very directly here. We give the individual a chance to watch as many times as they want. Now, this is also something, as I share with you, he's just simply using a marker, a whiteboard, or a white pad, and he has his camera basically videotaping him, and then he's putting it up there. So this is something we could actually feasibly do ourselves if we really needed to, if the elements of the video are not there. Now let me share with you another one here in terms of Math Playground that does something similar. We'll just take you out to the website. And in this instance, we're just simply kind of walking you through, again, the same example. And now, of course, Math Playground has games and a number of virtual manipulatives and things of that nature. We'll just kind of join him in mid-thought here.
How many sides does it have? How many triangles can we fit inside that polygon? And what's going to be the angle sum? So let's start with the triangle. Well, triangle has 3 sides, so I'm going to write 3.
So he's kind of walking us through those elements just to make us aware of the math that we're trying to walk through and understand. So there's a number of different resources out there that do that. And I want to emphasize here that, yes, as I mentioned before, there's some good practice. There's some things to be looking for when it comes to video. There's things that video does well if we select the right type of video. And by the way, as we get into selecting the right type of video, I want to make us aware that there's actually tools out there for free. So for example, if I use an iPad or an iMac, iMovie's free, or an iPhone. Screencastify is free. It's a Chrome app, so therefore I'm opening up my Chrome browser. I can use that, and I can record my screen, capture my desktop. Camtasia allows me to do something like that. There's a variety of editing tools like iMovie and others. All right, so that's just more as an aside to make us realize it. Now, of course, we're finally here at Khan Academy. And Khan Academy, in terms of what it does well from what we've already discussed in some of the research, is, yes, it breaks down the various elements, does that well. It offers closed captioning like we saw with BrainPOP. It offers color, as we see here, and I'll emphasize some illustrations of color in just a moment. It offers illustrations, it offers manipulatives, it offers number lines, it offers timelines, it offers some graphs, it'll offer angles, it'll offer graphs and charts, it'll offer a number of different elements. It offers something in sequential analysis in terms of step 1, step 2, step 3. It's always narrated. I can always play, stop. So let's go forward just a bit. Well, let's get the introduction, and then we'll kind of skip forward a little bit and see what he adds as he goes along in this about 10 to 11 minute tutorial.
We're told to look at the rational numbers below, order them from least to greatest. They really didn't have to tell us this first sentence. I would have known to look at the rational numbers to order them from least to greatest.
All right, so that's what we're trying to do, and he'll introduce a timeline. So there's our timeline.
Is 1. So 1/2 is directly between 0 and 1. So 1/2 is going to sit right over here. So that is...
And he's introducing color. So he's selected purple. He's circled to 1/2, and then he's going to put it in on the number line at 1/2 with purple. And we'll go a little bit forward, and we'll see he's done that with subsequent numbers as well.
Right over there on the number line. So I'll just write this 0 in orange to make it clear it's this 0.
All right, so a lot of nice elements within Khan Academy that, again, if we use it well, will align with some of these outcomes we're looking for the individual when it comes to anchoring the structure, making the connections, visualizing sequentially and introducing it, having the closed caption and the like. Now, with that said, there's also some cautions when it comes to video, and some videos specifically with Khan Academy that I want us to be aware of. So I've tried to emphasize a lot of the strengths and emphasize what's possible, but there's also cautions for us to consider. So for example, there's video that will not necessarily identify the right purpose. So we'll watch the video and say, this is not the purpose of what we would hope to teach the individual, meaning that they offer a lot of potential additional information, or the focus of what we're actually trying to concentrate on is secondary to something other that's primary and very possibly what the student will walk away with. There's also instances where there's a bit of a cognitive overload, meaning what it covers is either the language a little bit more too complex, the actual purpose, the focus is a little too complex, or they divert the purpose or divert the focus with a lot of secondary and tertiary information that will distract most learners, potentially the individual with inattention, really distract them, and therefore, because of that additional information or that cognitive load processing, they're definitely not getting at the purpose of the video and instead are thinking about other elements, or they can't process all those elements because of what's being expected of them. So let me give you a brief example. I'm actually going to do it with arithmetic. And let's get the introduction here. It's Khan Academy. It's do basic arithmetic. And, well, here, let's get us started here. Oops. Let's get us started here just to kind of get a context here.
1 plus 1. And I think you already know how to do this, but I'll kind of show you a way of doing this in case you don't have this memorized or you haven't already mastered this. You say, well, if I have one, let's call that a avocado. If I have one avocado, it's too easy. So let me give you.
All right, so he's used avocados, which is good. Later on, he's actually going to use a number line. Avocados are good in that they're manipulative. Number line is good in terms of the purpose there. But now he's going to add us into an additional equation. And listen to his commentary about these avocados. So here we go.
I like the avocados. I might stick with that theme. What is 3 plus 4? This is, I think, a more difficult problem. Well, let's stick with the avocados. And in case you don't know what an avocado is, it's actually a very delicious fruit. It's actually the fattiest of all the fruits. You probably didn't even think it was a fruit even if you ate one. So
now, this is interesting for me in that the first time I listened to this, within seconds, I was actually on a beach having a beer. Not physically, but where my mind was. And I'll explain why. See, I heard about avocados. And avocados, I immediately went to guacamole. And guacamole, I immediately went to chips. And chips and guacamole, well, I immediately went to a beer. And Corona was having a commercial at that time where wherever you had a beer, you always got relaxed. You could be sitting on an airplane having a beer, but you take yourself to a beach, and it's a much more pleasant feeling. So that's literally where my mind went. So I'm over here having a beer on a beach, and meanwhile, Mr. Khan is telling me about arithmetic. Now, of course, the children we're working with will not go there, but I could tell you my young son with attention issues would have immediately gone with fruit. Oh, I didn't know it was a fruit. Gosh, what other fruits? Wait, I have lunch coming up. I wonder if I'm going to have grapes. I love grapes with my fruit. Or maybe mom got me a banana. Oh, I don't like bananas, especially if they get mushy. Or maybe it's after lunch, and then they're thinking back to lunch that they had. Or maybe they're thinking to their snack. Where I'm going with this is diverted. He's talking about something, first of all, avocados. What is an avocado? There's a cognitive load aspect there. 2, in terms of a juiciest fruit, I thought it was a vegetable. And then 3, this idea of a fruit. Well, I'm going to go off and think about fruits. So his illustration, fine with using manipulatives, but that commentary to the side, which he often does, could very well distract, offer inattention, but also have us processing on something that's not relevant to the actual equation, to the actual problem that he's trying to illustrate. And that's very, very critical in our conversation here. So that's something to be very, very cautious of when we're thinking about the video. And by the way, there's a number of different resources out there for us to consider for video. When it comes to understanding the effectiveness of video, elements of video, and the like. Now, I'd like us to kind of close this conversation to think about, well, gosh, what type of video or how would I create video myself? And I want to share with this, and you're going to do an activity in just a moment, with a paper slide video. Now, this is several different reasons I want to share this with you. Is one, kind of thinking about, well, when I'm looking at the video or pre-looking at video for an assignment I want to offer or for an explanation I want to provide, what are the elements? What are the elements that need to be in there based on what I'm trying to instruct? Of course, then you want to preview to see if it's there and the purpose is there and it offers a foundation. It's not too distracted, etc., etc. But you also may say, well, gosh, I want to just create my own video. Well, I don't want to have to do the whiteboard thing. And of course, I'm not Khan and I'm not BrainPOP or other videos like that. Well, there's a simple way to make a video. It's called a paper slide video. Students can do it. Instructors can do it. And this one is just an overview of how to create a paper slide video if you were a student. So let's watch it real briefly.
How to make a paper slide video. What is a paper slide video, you may ask? Well, hopefully by the end of this short clip, you'll be able to answer that question as well as how to make a paper slide video. Step 1, you'll want to make sure that you get organized. Either you'll be assigned a topic or pick a topic, but you'll need to research, learn, and study that topic. You'll also want to make sure you have all your materials, paper, markers, scissors, maybe glue, pencils. Make sure you get organized. Step 2, you'll need to write a script. What will you say during your video?
Okay, so you see you're trying to get, the basics are being introduced here. The math example is you're seeing in terms of what the student might be offering, but the basics is that you could actually draw out on sheets of paper, or even include sheets of paper that already have elements, or maybe some images that are already included. You literally slide them through. The camera itself could be on a camera stand, or you're like, I don't have a camera stand. Well, maybe an Elmo. An Elmo is a projection system that can certainly record as well. Or put your camera on the Elmo and attach it there. So simple camera could be an iPad, but simply letting the sheets of paper that you've created slide through off of the illustration. Next thing you know, you have a minute and a half video to describe some of the elements of what you want the student to understand. And then they go off to the Florida Virtual because the videos that you were looking for don't exist there. Then they go off to the Florida Virtual after they have that support to get some extended learning, to get some of that supplemental support. So just an idea, something simple, but more importantly for me, and one of the reasons I wanted to review this with you is not all video is created equal, although video does have a lot of power. There are elements to be looking at, there's considerations to be had, but also there's different ways of using video, and I know you'll expand upon that in your face-to-face instruction that follows and discussion that follows. I hope this was helpful, and I hope the activity that follows is helpful as well.